In the far reaches of the Andromeda star system, where strange planets floated in vast darkness, the warrior Kale led a small team of human peacekeepers on the planet Varela world, known for its dense forests, towering mountains, and unpredictable dangers lurking in every shadow. Varela was not an easy place to walk, and its people, the Varelans, were proud and secretive. Kale had heard stories of their empire, ruled by a royal family that was both powerful and mysterious. His mission was to keep peace between humans and the native factions who had been locked in constant struggle for years. One humid morning, under a sky that seemed to pulse with distant lightning, Kale's squad found themselves caught in an ambush. Suddenly, they were surrounded by masked fighters, their weapons crackling with strange energy. Kale fought fiercely, each movement precise and deadly. But amidst the chaos, something unusual caught his eye: a figure collapsing behind the enemy, lines barely moving. Against all orders, Kale broke through the fight and raced toward the figure, feeling an inexplicable pull. As he reached her, he realized it was a young woman, wearing a delicate but regal cloak embroidered with symbols he recognized from Virulent legends. She was wounded deeply, pale and weak, and her eyes flickered with pain and fear. Kyle's heart raced. She was no ordinary fighter. He learned quickly that she was Princess Celira, the last hope of the Virulent Empire, badly injured in an attack that threatened to unravel the fragile peace. The warriors around him murmured in shock. No one had ever dared to approach the princess, especially not a human. But Kale knew that if she did not receive help soon, she would die. Desperation filled the air as medics confirmed her condition was worsening fast. The problem was terrifying. Her biology was unlike any humans, and the local healers were powerless to stop the bleeding. In a moment of raw courage, Kale offered to donate his blood, even though doctors warned that the differences between their species could cause a fatal reaction. The room fell silent. The court advisors whispered about madness and risk, while the princess's guards exchanged doubtful glances. To give human blood to an alien was unheard of, dangerous, and unpredictable. Yet Kale stood firm, his resolve unshaken by their fear. He could not stand by while this life slipped away, no matter the cost to himself. The procedure was arranged quickly in the royal infirmary, surrounded by tense faces and watchful eyes. As the blood began to flow from Kale's arm into Celira's veins, a strange energy seemed to fill the room. Some claimed to feel a sudden warmth or see faint glimmers of light, but no one could explain what was happening. Hours passed, and slowly the princess's breathing steadied, color returning to her cheeks. The medics were astonished. Against all odds, the human blood had saved her. Yet the moment brought more questions than answers. What had triggered this miraculous healing? Was Kale's blood truly compatible? Or had something deeper connected these two beings in ways science had never imagined? The palace whispers turned into debates, and then into outright astonishment. Some viewed Kale as a hero, a symbol of hope for interspecies unity. Others feared the unknown consequences of mixing two bloodlines so vastly different. But none could deny the courage it took for a human warrior to risk everything for an alien princess on a distant world. Celira herself looked at Kale with a mix of gratitude and curiosity, as if she sensed a bond had formed beyond simple survival. The royal court began to question their old prejudices and to wonder if this act could be the key to peace or, perhaps, the start of something far greater.
Outside the palace walls,
rumors spread quickly. Did people of Varela, watching their beloved princess recover, began to whisper tales of the strange human who had changed their fate? Unknown to them all, this was just the beginning of a story that would shake the foundations of two worlds and challenge everything they thought they knew about life, loyalty, and what it truly meant to be a warrior. After Kale's brave act of donating his blood to save Princess Celira, the atmosphere in the Virulent Palace shifted dramatically. At first, the healers and scientists marveled at how her wounds were closing, how the strength returned to her body so quickly. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Celira's pale skin, once as fragile as delicate glass, began to glow faintly with renewed vitality. The court watched with a mixture of awe and cautious hope, whispering among themselves about the miracle that had occurred. But the real surprise was yet to come. Within days, changes started appearing, not just in the princess, but in Kale. As well, Kale felt at first as a tingling sensation in his fingertips, as if his nerves had awakened in a new way. Small things around him, like the rustle of leaves or distant footsteps, became clearer, sharper. His body grew stronger, tougher, as though the blood he had shared had given him an unexpected gift. At the same time, Celira experienced something just as profound. She began to move with more energy than before, standing tall with an ease that was unusual for someone who had nearly died. More surprisingly, the cold formality that usually marked her behavior gave way to sudden bursts of emotion, curiosity, laughter, and even a touch of stubbornness that no one had seen before. She asked questions about the humans and their way of life, trying to understand feelings and ideas that were new to her. Scientists from the Virulent Empire and human specialists gathered to study the unusual bond between Kale and Celira, running tests and observing their physical and mental states. What they discovered baffled them. The human blood and Virulent physiology had not just mixed, they had intertwined in a way that created new biological pathways. The blood cells, instead of being rejected, seemed to communicate and adapt to each other's systems. This was unlike any xenobiological case on record, hinting at a connection deeper than anyone expected. For Kale, the changes affected more than his senses and strength. He noticed his mind working differently, his thoughts sharper, memories clearer, and even a strange sense of empathy toward the alien world around him. He could understand Celira's feelings in ways that went beyond words, sensing her worries and hopes as if they were his own. Meanwhile, Celira found herself caught between two worlds. She struggled to understand the flood of new emotions and instincts stirring within her. Sometimes she felt drawn to the fierce independence of the human spirit, at other times grounded by the traditions of her people. The merging of their blood seemed to create a bridge, both biological and emotional, that neither fully understood, but both sensed was powerful. This transformation stirred excitement, fear, and suspicion among the Virulent court. Some saw the changes as a blessing, a sign that a new era of cooperation between humans and Virulents might be possible. Others whispered about dangers. What if the blood bond altered the princess forever? What if it weakened the purity of their royal line? Tensions rose quietly beneath the surface, even as Kale and Celira tried to focus on the future. The palace. Halls buzzed with rumors, and outside, the people sensed something unusual in the air. A growing feeling that the alliance between two very different species was no longer just political, but something living and breathing, something unpredictable. As days turned into weeks, Kale and Celira grew closer, not just as allies, but as something more complicated. They shared secrets, fears, and moments of unexpected laughter. Sparred bond, born in crisis, became a symbol of hope to many and a threat to others. The very essence of what it meant to be human and what it meant to be Virulent began to blur in their lives, forcing both to reconsider their beliefs about strength, loyalty, and identity. All the while, in the shadows beyond the palace, unseen, eyes watched and waited. Forces both within and outside the empire understood that this transformation could change the fate of their worlds forever. The merging of their blood was not just a medical miracle, it was a spark that could ignite new conflicts or bring lasting peace. And as Kale and Celira faced these changes, neither knew exactly what path they would walk, only that nothing would ever be the same again. News of the unexpected bond between Kale the human warrior and Princess Celira of the Virulent Empire spread like wildfire across the galaxies, stirring deep concern and suspicion among political leaders and powerful factions. The story of a human's blood saving an alien princess was not just an unusual miracle. It threatened to disrupt long-held alliances and power balances that had kept the fragile peace intact for decades. Some factions saw the union as a dangerous weakness, a sign that the royal line had been compromised, and they began plotting quietly, hoping either to control the newfound bond for their gain or to eliminate it before it grew stronger. Meetings were held in shadowy chambers, where whispers filled the air with fear and greed. Certain military leaders, both human and Verulan, feared losing their influence if Kale and Celira's alliance succeeded, worrying that old rivalries would dissolve under their leadership. Meanwhile, beyond the political intrigue, a far more terrifying threat emerged from the depths of space. A mysterious alien species long believed extinct suddenly reappeared, unleashing waves of destruction across border systems. These aliens, silent and relentless, showed no interest in negotiation or conquest for resources. Their goal was total domination, an erasure of all who stood in their path. The sudden resurgence of this ancient enemy shocked both human and Verulan leaders, forcing them to reconsider their priorities. The once separate worlds now found themselves linked not only by the bond of Kale and Celira, but by the urgent need to survive. As tensions escalated, Kale and Celira found themselves caught in a dangerous web of diplomacy and warfare. They had to act quickly to protect their people and the fragile hope their bond represented. Kale, who had once been a lone warrior, now stood at the center of a political storm, navigating alliances, betrayals, and suspicions with a skill he had never needed before. Celira, newly strengthened but still learning the depths of her changing nature, used her position as princess to push for unity among her divided people, urging them to look beyond old prejudices in the face of the growing threat. Together, they worked tirelessly, meeting with leaders, generals, and diplomats, trying to forge agreements that had seemed impossible before. Yet every step forward was met with resistance from factions unwilling to trust or change. Sabotage attempts, secret plots, and propaganda campaigns aimed to undermine their influence. Even within their closest circles, doubts whispered in quiet corners, threatening to unravel their fragile coalition. All the while, the alien invaders advanced, striking swiftly at strategic points and testing the defenses of the combined human and Verulan forces. These battles were brutal and costly, pushing Kale and Celira's alliance to its limits. They realized that mere strength was not enough to defeat an enemy so determined and mysterious. Innovation and unity became their greatest weapons. Scientists and engineers from both worlds collaborated on new technologies inspired by the unique connection between Kale and Celira, hoping to unlock secrets that could turn the tide of war. Their shared bloodline became a source of hope and fascination, symbolizing a future where differences could be overcome. Despite the constant danger, moments of quiet strength gave Kale and Celira the will to keep fighting. They found comfort in their growing friendship, their shared mission, forging a bond deeper than blood alone. The pressure of leadership weighed heavily on them, but neither allowed fear to dominate their actions. As the alien threat grew closer to the heart of the Verulan Empire, Kale and Celira prepared their people for the coming storm.
They trained
troops, strengthened defenses, and inspired courage in those who had once doubted. Their story became a beacon, a reminder that hope could shine brightest in the darkest hours. Yet uncertainty lingered. No one knew the full origin or purpose of the invading species, nor how to stop them completely. The future was unclear, and every decision carried immense risks. But through every challenge, Kale and Celira stood firm, their bond a living testament to the power of trust and unity in a universe that often seemed bent on division and destruction. As they faced the greatest test of their lives, they understood that victory would depend not only on weapons or tactics, but on the strength to believe in each other in a future where two very different worlds could rise together against any threat. As tensions across the star systems grew, Kale and Celira realized that their bond was no longer just a personal connection, but a powerful symbol that could unite their divided worlds. Both understood that the mysterious alien threat, looming beyond their borders, was too great for any one people to face alone. Despite centuries of distrust and deep-rooted fears between humans and virulence, the two leaders began to use their unique relationship as a bridge to bring their people together. The journey was far from easy. Many within the Verulan Empire doubted that Kale, a human warrior, could be trusted. While some humans questioned whether Celira's openness to alliance was wise, Yet Kale's newfound strength and Celera's revived spirit inspired hope that cooperation was possible. They traveled across their respective worlds, speaking to elders, generals, and ordinary citizens, demonstrating that courage and trust could cross even the widest divides. Slowly, old wounds began to heal. Military leaders who once prepared for battle now listened closely to their message of unity. Kale shared stories of his battles and sacrifices, not to boast, but to show that humans were willing to stand beside Virulon's not against them. Celera's openness to embrace human ways and share her own culture built respect. Behind closed doors, the two worked tirelessly, coordinating strategies that combined the best of both species' tactics. Humans brought advanced technology and adaptability, while Virulons contributed their knowledge of the terrain and ancient combat techniques. Together, they created a new kind of force, one that was more than the sum of its parts. Their alliance was tested when the mysterious alien invaders launched their first attack on a border colony. This force was unlike any enemy the Virulons or humans had faced before. Silent, swift, and seemingly impossible to detect until it was too late. Panic swept through the colonies as entire outposts vanished overnight, and fear threatened to unravel the fragile peace Kale and Celera had worked so hard to build. But instead of retreating, the alliance held strong. Kale and Celera led the combined fleets into battle, their coordination flawless and their resolve unbreakable. On the battlefield, Kale's heightened senses and resilience, gifts from their shared blood, made him an almost unstoppable warrior. Same time, Celera's renewed energy and human-like instincts allowed her to inspire troops with fierce determination and clear vision. They fought side by side, their actions sending a message not only to the enemy, but to their own people. Unity was strength. Battles were fought with precision and clever tactics, using the terrain to their advantage and surprising the enemy. At every turn, the aliens, powerful but unfamiliar with the Alliance's unpredictable cooperation, found themselves outmatched. Yet the war was not only fought with weapons, diplomacy played a crucial role. Kale and Celera traveled between worlds, negotiating with leaders who remained wary of their union, addressing fears and breaking down barriers, one conversation at a time. Each victory on the battlefield was matched by progress in the council chambers, where representatives of humans and Virulons debated and decided their shared future. Stories of bravery and sacrifice spread quickly through the populations, raising morale and reinforcing the belief that peace was possible. People who once lived in suspicion began to see one another as allies, even friends. The young and old warriors and scholars all found hope in the vision that Kale and Celera embodied. But the journey was far from over. The alien invaders adapted quickly, their attacks becoming more sophisticated and deadly. It became clear that this enemy was not just a military threat, but something ancient and relentless, bent on destruction rather than conquest. As the war dragged on, Kale and Celera faced moments of doubt and exhaustion, but their bond held firm. They reminded their people that their strength came not just from weapons or strategy, but from the trust and respect they had built together. In a decisive battle near the heart of the Virulon capital, the Alliance's forces faced the enemy's main fleet. The fight was fierce, with explosions lighting the dark sky and the ground shaking beneath the impact of powerful weapons. Kale led a daring assault on the enemy command ship, while Celera coordinated defenses to protect the city and its citizens. Their combined efforts broke the enemy's formation, turning the tide of battle. When the dust settled, the alien invaders retreated, their power broken for the first time in centuries. The victory was celebrated across both worlds, not just as a military success, but as proof that cooperation between humans and Virulons could overcome even the greatest challenges. Kale and Celera stood together before their people, united not only by their blood but by a shared vision of a peaceful future. Their story became a legend, inspiring generations to come. The alliance they forged proved that differences, no matter how vast, could be bridged through courage, understanding, and trust. And as the stars shone above their united worlds, a new era began, one where hope replaced fear, cooperation overcame conflict. After the long and hard battle that tested The courage and strength of both humans and Virulons, a new chapter finally began for their worlds. Peace was restored, not through domination or fear, but because of an extraordinary bond between Kale and Celera that grew beyond the blood they shared and became a symbol of unity, hope, and progress, the relationship once viewed with suspicion and doubt now inspired millions across the stars. The story of a human warrior and an alien princess overcoming their differences to save each other resonated deeply with people who had long feared what divided them. Kale and Celera's connection showed that what made them different could also bring them closer. This new era was not just about peace, but about understanding and cooperation on levels never seen before. Scientists and healers from both species worked together to study the strange and unique effects of their blood connection. They discovered that the mingling of human and virulent genetics unlocked new possibilities in medicine and biology. Treatments once thought impossible became reality, healing wounds and curing diseases that had plagued their people for generations. The combined knowledge sparked innovations that transformed healthcare and extended life, allowing humans and Virulons alike to thrive in ways no one imagined. Beyond medicine, their alliance opened doors to cultural exchanges, trade, and exploration. For the first time, humans learned the ancient arts and wisdom of the Virulons, while the Virulons embraced human ingenuity and resilience. Together, they built schools, research centers, and communities where both species lived side by side, learning from each other and growing stronger. The barriers of language and traditions slowly faded, replaced by curiosity and respect. Kale and Celera became leaders not just by birth or rank, but by example. Their courage to trust one another despite the risks and doubts inspired other leaders to follow their path. Political rivals found new reasons to negotiate rather than fight, knowing that the future depended on cooperation, not conflict. Across planets and space stations, festivals celebrated their alliance, reminding everyone of how much could be achieved when fear was replaced by friendship. Still, the road to this new era was not without challenges. Some voices continued to resist change, clinging to old fears and prejudices. But Kale and Celera faced these challenges with patience and determination. Knowing that true peace required more than victory in battle, it required a shift in hearts and minds. They held dialogues, addressed fears openly, and showed through their own lives that unity was possible and powerful. As years passed, their legacy grew. Children born of this era learned stories of courage and trust, of how two very different beings came together to save not only themselves, but their entire worlds. These stories became a foundation for a new culture, one that celebrated differences instead of fearing them, that valued collaboration over competition. Kale and Celera's blood connection was a living reminder that resilience and hope could bridge even the widest divides. At the end of this long journey, standing side by side beneath the twin suns that shone over a peaceful horizon, Kale and Celera knew that their story was only the beginning. The future held endless possibilities, new friendships, discoveries, and adventures born from the choice to unite rather than divide. Their worlds were no longer separate stars in the darkness, but a shining constellation of hope and strength. And with that hope, a new era began, one where differences were not just accepted, but celebrated, where the courage of one human warrior and one alien princess changed the fate of many forever.